After a miscarriage, I unexpectedly overheard Robert Sterling telling the doctor, "Find a chance to drug my wife, then cut out her uterus so she can never get pregnant again." He then placed his large hand on another woman's belly and instructed, "Give her the best pregnancy care plan. I want her child to be the heir of Sterling Enterprises." I knew this woman. She was a streamer at Robert Sterling's company. Then I heard him sternly remind the doctor, "Also, make sure my wife recovers well. If this surgery leaves her with any lasting issues, none of you will get away with it." My heart trembled. I never imagined the man who loved me like his life would cheat. So I left behind a divorce agreement and walked away, granting them their love. On the way back to the ward, I was in a daze, the scene I'd just witnessed replaying in my mind. My husband, who treated me like the apple of his eye and loved me deeply, had secretly cheated on me with another woman and arranged for my uterus to be removed. And he knew that what I wanted most was a child. A passing nurse looked at me with envy. Her husband booked the entire floor of the ward just so she wouldn't be disturbed, and he arranged for a professional nurse to look after her meals and daily life. That's not all. He wants to stay by her side 24/7. I told him he loves her too much. When she was bleeding from the miscarriage, her husband's eyes were swollen from crying. I've never seen a man care so much about his wife. I heard they've been together since college, and to marry her, he transferred his entire family fortune into her name. If this were before, hearing such words would have made me feel incredibly happy. But now, it felt like a fly was stuck in my throat, making me sick. Just then, Robert Sterling's furious voice came from a nearby ward, "A bunch of useless idiots. You can't even keep track of one person. If anything happens to Sarah, I'll kill you all." Robert Sterling rarely lost his temper. The last time was when I was seriously ill, and no hospital could cure me. He was so anxious he almost smashed the hospital and even wanted to die with me in the end. I looked at the veins bulging on his forehead but couldn't feel the same emotion as before. I spoke calmly, "Robert, I'm here." As soon as he saw me, Robert Sterling's eyes instantly lit up. He rushed over and pulled me into his embrace. "Sarah, where did you go? Why didn't you tell me? I thought something had happened to you." His voice trembled with lingering fear, showing no hint of pretense. I subtly pushed him away. The ward was too stuffy. I went out for some air. He finally breathed a sigh of relief, but his grip on my hand didn't loosen at all. Then, he took a bowl of medicine from the nurse and gently brought it to my lips. "Honey, time to take your medicine." I looked at the dark, bitter liquid medicine in the bowl, feeling a chill down my spine, my mind filled with the scene I'd just witnessed. "It's bitter. I don't want to drink it." In the past, Robert Sterling never refused my requests, but this time, he unusually insisted, "If you don't take the medicine, you won't get better, and you won't be able to have a baby. Haven't you always wanted to have a baby for me?" He knew a baby was my weakness, certain that using a child as bait would make me comply. But I no longer trusted him. I directly knocked the bowl of medicine out of his hand. I said, "I'm not drinking it." Robert Sterling's gentle face stiffened, a hint of displeasure flashing in his eyes. I thought knocking the medicine away would save me, but the next second, everything went black, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, it was already the next morning. A sense of dread washed over me. I lifted the covers and saw a surgical scar on my abdomen. My world came crashing down. I wanted to confront Robert Sterling, but I heard his explanation. "Honey, you fainted suddenly last night. The doctor checked and found your uterus was cancerous, so I had them remove it." Afraid I wouldn't believe him, he even produced a test report that indeed stated my uterus was cancerous. If I hadn't personally seen him instruct the doctor, I probably would have been fooled by him. Looking at the hideous scar on my belly, my heart felt like it had been ripped in two, leaving only endless despair. Robert Sterling held me in his arms with concern, comforting me. "Honey, I know you've always wanted kids, but your health is more important. I don't want anything to happen to you. At worst, we can adopt a child later." I opened my mouth to speak, but the door was pushed open, and Tiffany walked in with a fruit basket. "Excuse us. I'm here on behalf of the company to visit the missus." Tiffany was a newly signed streamer at Sterling Entertainment. She was very beautiful, had a perfect figure, and was particularly interesting. Each stream earned Sterling Enterprises millions. No wonder Robert Sterling would like her. Robert Sterling's expression remained unchanged. He nodded lightly at Tiffany in response, then turned his gaze back to me. But I knew that beneath the seemingly calm surface, something turbulent was hidden. I lay down with my back to them, suppressing my emotions. I'm tired. I want to rest. I thought Tiffany would leave, but she stayed, sitting beside Robert Sterling to keep watch over me. Robert Sterling sat by the bed, gently massaging me. Tiffany sat obediently nearby. It looked like a harmonious, loving couple scene, but unbeknownst to anyone, at the foot of the bed where no one could see, Tiffany was deliberately rubbing Robert Sterling's leg with hers. Robert Sterling didn't refuse, letting her rub him until she got too bold. Only then did he reach out and grab her thigh, stopping her provocation. But Tiffany didn't give up. He hugged Robert Sterling from behind, rubbing against him like a cat. Robert Sterling instinctively glanced at me, confirming I had my eyes closed and was breathing evenly, seemingly asleep. He instantly grew bolder, turned, and pushed Tiffany onto a nearby table, cupping her neck and kissing her. But he quickly released her, his cold gaze seeming to warn her to behave. To my surprise, Tiffany showed no fear and wrapped herself around him again. Robert Sterling could no longer resist. After glancing at me, he took Tiffany's hand and walked out of the ward. The moment the door closed, I opened my eyes. Robert Sterling would never have guessed that all his interactions with Tiffany had been reflected in the glass, allowing me to see everything clearly. I followed Robert Sterling and Tiffany to a corner. I hid behind a pillar, able to see the scene by slightly peeking out. Robert Sterling was holding Tiffany's neck, gritting his teeth. Didn't I warn you to behave yourself in front of Sarah? Tiffany showed no fear, rubbing Robert Sterling's arm playfully. Isn't that because you've been so busy accompanying her these past few days? The baby misses you. Then, she provocatively hooked Robert Sterling's neck, cooing, Mr. Sterling, haven't you always wanted to try somewhere outside? Let's try it. There are no cameras on this floor, and your wife is asleep. No one will find us. Without waiting for Robert Sterling's response, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed his lips. Robert Sterling was startled for a moment, then cupped Tiffany's head and deepened the kiss. Robert, be gentle. I'm afraid the baby can't take it. Shut up. I know what I'm doing. I didn't dare watch what happened next. As I fled, the sounds of their intimacy constantly echoed in my ears. My heart felt like it was being torn in two, the pain excruciating. The man who said he only loved me and would only dote on me his whole life was secretly meeting with another woman behind my back. It felt like an invisible hand was slapping my face, the intense humiliation almost drowning me. My legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the ground, a pathetic and laughable sight. Passing nurses rushed over to help me up. Seeing tears on my face, they mistook it for pain from the fall and quickly comforted me. Oh, Mrs. Sterling, please don't cry. Mr. Sterling would be heartbroken if he saw you like this. Looking at the nurses' worried expressions, I could no longer hold back my emotions and burst into tears. After crying myself out, I returned to the room and fell asleep. When I woke up, Robert Sterling hadn't returned, but I saw Tiffany standing at the foot of the bed with a gloomy expression. Her face showed no respect, and she looked at me with disdain, sneering, "You saw what happened just now, didn't you? Robert loves me. I'm already pregnant with his child." I clenched my fists and asked her, trembling, "How long have you been together?" Tiffany held up 3 fingers, beaming with pride. 3 years. He met me at a dinner party 3 years ago and fell in love at first sight. He couldn't keep his hands off me the first night. When he went back, he felt guilty towards you, that's why he transferred all his assets into your name. Those things were originally meant for me and the baby. You stole what was ours. I bit my lip hard, suppressing the urge to slap her. Seeing this, Tiffany became even more audacious and continued, "Do you think he loves you very much? Actually, every day after you fall asleep, he comes to find me. Even when I'm pregnant, he won't rest. To be honest, the day you miscarried, he didn't have a business dinner at all. He was in bed with me, having fun. He can't live without me now. If you're smart, you'll divorce him yourself. Hearing this, I remembered the day of the miscarriage. I fainted several times from the pain and almost died from excessive bleeding in the end. The doctor called Robert Sterling 10 times in a row, but he didn't answer and even turned off his phone eventually. The next day, when he came back, he knelt by my bed, saying he was at a business dinner the night before, blaming himself for not coming to see me sooner, and repeatedly slapping himself as punishment. In reality, while I was in agonizing pain, he was having a good time with another woman. My last shred of hope completely vanished at that moment, my heart turned to ash. Seeing my defeated state, Tiffany became even more triumphant, standing with her hands on her hips. Tomorrow, Robert Sterling is throwing me a wedding, even grander than the one he had for you. Remember to come for our wedding feast. With that, she left, holding her chin high like a victorious hen. Watching her smug back, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. The next second, my vision went black, and I fainted. When I woke up, it was already the next morning. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw Robert Sterling guarding my side, his eyes red. He pulled me into his embrace, his voice choked with sobs. "Sarah, you're finally awake. You scared me to death." The scene I saw in the corner flashed in my mind, and I felt a wave of nausea. I pushed Robert Sterling away. "I'm fine." Robert Sterling, pushed away, paused, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Looking at his tear-filled eyes, I asked the heavy question that had been weighing on my heart for days. "Do you remember what I told you before we got married?" Before marriage, I told him that if he ever fell in love with someone else, he should tell me, and I would step aside for the other person. But if he ever deceived me, I would disappear from his world forever. Robert Sterling nodded without hesitation. "Why are you asking about this all of a sudden? Did I do something wrong that upset you?" Then, he stood up with a serious expression and ordered the nurses behind him, "Call in every woman I've had recent contact with." Soon after, my room had over a dozen women, including nurses and several maids. Tiffany was among them. She touched her belly, looking at me with blatant pride. Robert Sterling stood with his hands behind his back, sternly ordering, "Tell my wife exactly how you've interacted with me recently, in detail." "Mrs. Sterling, my last contact with Mr. Sterling was submitting your recent meal plan." "Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Sterling asked me to bring the calming scent diffuser from home to the hospital. That's the only time I saw him." "Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Sterling saw your Ford drip was almost empty and called me to change it." They reported one after another. Almost every matter was related to me, and they couldn't help but show envy towards me. When it was Tiffany's turn, she said flatly, "I haven't had any contact with Mr. Sterling since I delivered the fruit basket yesterday." "Don't worry, Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Sterling's heart is only for you." Even though they were complimentary words, I heard the strong undertone of mockery. I gave a self-mocking laugh and signaled them to leave. Robert Sterling seemed much more relaxed after proving his innocence. He sat by the bed, took my hand, and said sincerely, "Sarah, you know I only love you in this life. I would never fall for another woman besides you." I gave a faint and pulled my hand away, ignoring the disappointment in Robert Sterling's eyes. Then, as if remembering something, Robert Sterling added, "Sarah, I have to go on a business trip tomorrow and won't be able to stay with you, but my phone will be on 24/7 for you. Call me if you miss me." He expressed his deep affection, showing no hint of pretense. I suppressed the discomfort in my heart and nodded in response. "Then please be careful on your trip." I clearly caught the flicker of guilt in his eyes, then heard his slightly aggrieved voice. But I miss you so much. Even though it's only for one day, I don't want to be apart from you for a single second. After we adopt a child, let's just hand over the company to him. That way I won't have to travel around and be separated from you." If I didn't know he was going away for 7 days to marry Tiffany, I probably would have been moved by his words. Finally, Robert Sterling kissed my forehead reluctantly and left the ward. As soon as he left, I checked myself out of the hospital. After packing my belongings at home, I placed a divorce agreement on the living room table and boarded a plane to Montera. Before getting on the plane, I deleted and blocked all of Robert Sterling's contact information, saying a final goodbye to him. Sitting on the plane, I looked through the window as the city where I had lived for over 30 years became smaller and smaller. The heavy stone pressing on my heart finally dissipated. Robert Sterling, goodbye forever. The next morning, I arrived safely in Montera. After doing some research online, I chose a rented house to stay in. Meanwhile, Robert Sterling was having his wedding ceremony with Tiffany. Just before he stepped into the church, he didn't forget to ask the doctor about my condition. The doctor told him that since he left, I had been sleeping and had instructed everyone not to disturb me, saying I would call them when I woke up. Hearing the doctor's report, he finally felt at ease entering the church. But for some reason, my image still filled his mind. Last night, he even had a dream where I asked for a divorce, which woke him up. He called the doctor to confirm I was still sleeping, and his anxious heart calmed down. But this unease remained in Robert Sterling's heart, and as time passed, it grew stronger. His mind began to wander, and he didn't even hear the officiant ask if he would take the bride. It was Tiffany who finally nudged his hand to bring him back to our reality. He looked at Tiffany's eyes, full of love, but the image that flashed in his mind was of my disappointed face looking at him. He was startled, immediately flung away Tiffany's hand, turned around, and ran out of the church. "Mr. Sterling, the wedding isn't over yet. Where are you going?" It was only now that he realized how important I was to him. How could he marry another woman behind my back? "Sarah, you have to wait for me." Robert Sterling rushed back to the hospital. After getting out of the car, he went straight to the ward. His heart calmed down slightly when he saw me still lying in bed, covered by the blanket, through the doorway. He pushed the ward door open and walked in, a gentle smile on his face. "Honey, I'm back." The person in bed didn't react. Robert Sterling cautiously lifted the blanket. The smile on his face froze instantly when he saw it wasn't me underneath, but a pillow. Where was his Sarah? Robert Sterling's heart panicked. He frantically searched the room for me. "Sarah, Sarah, where are you? Sarah!" But there was no sign of me in the room. Panicked, he quickly pulled out his phone to call me. It said the number was blocked. He tried sending messages instead, only to find all my contact information deleted and blocked. The dream from last night flooded back into his mind. Robert Sterling's face turned pale, and he quickly called the doctor. But the doctor said they didn't know what had happened. After I told them not to disturb me while I slept last night, they hadn't entered the ward. Only after checking the surveillance footage did they discover that I had quietly left the hospital less than an hour after Robert Sterling left. Robert Sterling immediately panicked, calling the police and rushing home. Upon arriving home, he jumped out of the car and ran into the house impatiently, grabbing a maid he encountered and demanding, "Where is the missus? Did she come back?" The miss. Us. She did come back yesterday, but she left again shortly after, saying she just came back to grab a few things and would return to the hospital, the maid said, trembling, clearly frightened by Robert Sterling. Robert Sterling was about to say something when his gaze fell upon the divorce agreement on the coffee table. He released the maid, walked over, and picked up the document with trembling hands. Seeing my name written on the last page, he froze completely, as if his soul had been sucked out. How could this be? How could his Sarah divorce him? There must be some misunderstanding. Robert Sterling angrily tore the divorce agreement in half and scattered the pieces into the air. "Go, immediately mobilize everyone. You must find the missus for me." Robert Sterling sternly ordered the maid, then rushed out of the living room himself. No matter where his Sarah had gone, he had to find her. The rented house I chose was near the sea, and I could see it as soon as I opened the curtains in the morning. The sky and sea were blue, with a flock of seagulls flying and hunting above. The scenery was beautiful. Since I was a child, I had always loved the sea, but growing up poor, I never had the chance to see it. Back then, my father loved to gamble, owed a huge debt, and was also an alcoholic. Every time he got drunk, he would beat my mother. Several times, if I hadn't called the police in time, my mother might not have made it. But luck doesn't last forever. One day, after self-study class, I returned home from school and saw my mother lying on the ground, barely alive, surrounded by blood, and my father was gone. Later, I reported my father to the police, but it was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. He never appeared again. The trauma from my dysfunctional family was like a brand deeply imprinted on me, tormenting me through long nights for 10 years. I hated myself for not being able to take my mother away and protect her, and even more, I hated my mother for loving my father so much that she stayed with him despite being abused, until her death. All of this led me to not dare to trust love anymore and refuse intimate contact with anyone, until Robert Sterling's appearance changed everything. At that time, Robert Sterling had just inherited Sterling Enterprises, fell in love with me at first sight, and then began pursuing me for 5 years. He would always appear when I was in trouble, offering help, satisfying all my material needs, and occasionally preparing surprises for me. Every year on my birthday, he would celebrate with me and always present me with the most beautiful jewelry in the city. As long as I liked one of them, he would be overjoyed, like a loyal minister rewarded by the emperor. Knowing I liked the sea, he would take me to see it once a month, continuing this until we got married. Later, I didn't want to interfere with his work, and after much persistence, he finally stopped this routine. Robert Sterling's arrival was like a light in my dark life, giving me hope and showing me the meaning of living. But he also gave me the biggest blow, making me realize how complex human nature is, that even if someone loves you to their core, it can't stop them from cheating. And even cruelly arranged for my uterus to be removed so another woman's child could become the heir. In the afternoon, I went to the hospital for a checkup. My uterus was indeed gone. Although I already knew the truth, seeing the test results still made my heart clench. On the first day we got married, I told Robert Sterling that I loved children very much and hoped to have our own. Robert Sterling smiled dotingly then, holding me and saying he had long wanted to have a baby with me but was afraid I wouldn't like it, so he hadn't brought it up. But as fate would have it, I had difficulty conceiving. For the first 4 years of our marriage, no matter how hard Robert Sterling and I tried, how much we took care of our bodies, I couldn't get pregnant. I was particularly self-blaming and often cried late at night. Robert Sterling would hold me and comfort me, sincerely telling me that children weren't important as long as I could live happily and stay by his side. His tone was casual and indifferent, as if he truly didn't care, but I still saw his disappointment. He actually wanted a child more than I did. But after our continuous efforts, I finally got pregnant with our first baby in June this year. The moment I found out I was pregnant, my world felt like fireworks exploding. I was incredibly happy. I couldn't wait to tell Robert Sterling the news, but he wasn't as happy as I had expected. He even seemed a little sad. At that time, I didn't understand, thinking something had gone wrong with his work that made him feel that way. Only now do I know that he was afraid that when my child was born, it would take away Tiffany's child's right to inherit. Later, I had an unexpected miscarriage, and the child I had been looking forward to was gone just like that. During that time, I fainted from crying several times. Robert Sterling, on the other hand, seemed relieved. Looking back now, he must have been praying for my child to be gone. I suddenly felt a little lucky that the child was gone. Otherwise, born into a family without a father's love, I couldn't imagine how sad they would be. The scenery in Montera is beautiful, and I decided to settle here. So, after arranging for a residence permit, I bought a small house nearby. Although it wasn't big, it was decorated warmly, and I didn't feel lonely even living alone. The following days were calm and fulfilling. To make the house livelier, I also got a kitten and a puppy. The kitten always loved to drink my wash water, so I named it Smudge. The puppy liked to carry small stones in its mouth, so it was named Pebble. With their companionship, my originally peaceful life began to become less ordinary, simply because they were too mischievous and often got me into trouble. What I didn't expect was that Robert Sterling would find his way here. One day, I had just booked a tour group and was preparing to go skiing in the Montera Mountains. As soon as I stepped out, I was blocked by Robert Sterling, who seemed to appear out of nowhere. "Sarah, you're really here." At first glance, I didn't recognize Robert Sterling because he had lost a lot of weight in the past month and looked excessively haggard. He was completely different from the high-spirited, aloof CEO he used to be. The moment he saw me, his dull eyes lit up. He quickly walked over, wanting to hug me, but I avoided him. I took a few steps back, putting distance between us, and looked at him warily. Don't come closer. Robert Sterling paused, a flicker of hurt in his eyes. Sarah, what did I do wrong? Why are you treating me like this? I was just away for one day on a business trip, and you disappeared from my side without a word and left me a divorce agreement. Don't you love me anymore? His voice was filled with sadness, as if he had suffered a great injustice. It seemed he still didn't know that I had discovered his affair with Tiffany. I took out my phone and played the recording of what Tiffany said in the hospital room that day. Do you think he loves you very much? Actually, every day after you fall asleep, he comes to find me. Even when I'm pregnant, he won't rest. To be honest, the day you miscarried, he didn't have a business dinner at all. He was in bed with me, having fun. He can't live without me now. If you're smart, you'll divorce him yourself. Tomorrow, Robert Sterling is throwing me a wedding, even grander than the one he had for you. Remember to come for our wedding feast. Robert Sterling's face instantly turned pale. He looked at me in disbelief. She told you everything? I put away my phone and said calmly, now you know why I left you, don't you? Out of consideration for our marriage, I can choose not to pursue this matter. I hope you'll be sensible and stop disturbing my life. With that, I turned to leave, but Robert Sterling grabbed my hand and shook his head. Sarah, listen to me. I didn't marry her. You are my only wife. This so-called explanation felt like a joke, making me laugh mockingly. We're divorced. It's your business who you marry, you don't need to explain it to me. You should hurry back and take care of Tiffany. Her child is probably waiting for you to return. Robert Sterling shook his head again, explaining, we're not divorced. I didn't sign that divorce agreement. You're still my wife. I can explain about Tiffany, it was just a temporary fling, but I promise you, I've always loved you, and that love has never diminished. You know, for someone in my position, many women try to get close. At first, I could firmly refuse, but I'm only human. I couldn't control the physical attraction, so every word Robert Sterling spoke was like a sharp arrow piercing my heart, mocking the years of effort and trust one had put into this relationship. I couldn't help it and slapped him. That's no excuse for cheating. I told you a long time ago, if you fell in love with someone else or had an affair with another woman, you should tell me directly. But you've been involved with her for 3 whole years. You had many chances to confess to me during those 3 years, but you didn't. You chose to hide it and even wanted to remove my uterus so I couldn't get pregnant and pave the way for her child. The suppressed anger in my heart completely erupted at this moment, and my voice involuntarily rose. Robert Sterling was stunned, unsure how to respond to me for a moment. However, he didn't get the chance because the tour group had arrived at my door and were calling me to get on the bus quickly. I didn't want to waste any more time with Robert Sterling. I bypassed him and got on the bus. Through the window, I saw Robert Sterling standing there dumbfounded, as if he had lost his soul. But because his back was to me, I couldn't see his expression now, and I didn't want to. Our tour guide was a very young man named Ethan Miller, a Chinese-American mix, who was very good-looking. Most of the women in the group came for his looks. However, he was a bit distant. Aside from answering work-related questions, he didn't respond to anything else. Before we started climbing the snowy mountain, he checked everyone's safety gear one by one. When he got to me, he looked at me intently. His gaze was a little strange, as if he knew me from before. But he didn't say anything. After confirming my safety measures were in place, he led us on our way. When I was with Robert Sterling, he never allowed me to participate in thrill-seeking activities because he was worried about my health. But he didn't know that I had always been a thrill-seeker. The more heart-pounding the outdoor activity, the more I liked it. I just didn't want him to worry, so I stopped doing these outdoor activities after we got married. Before this, my favorite activity was skiing. Not being able to ski all these years, seeing videos of others skiing on TV always made my heart itch. I never expected I would have the chance to ski again. The moment I stepped back onto the skis and glided on the snow, my soul felt released, and I instantly felt incredibly light. What I didn't expect was that just as I was about to reach the finish line, an out-of-control skier would suddenly rush out. He couldn't stop his skis and crashed directly into me. I was knocked to the ground, and the huge impact sent me rolling uncontrollably downhill, finally crashing heavily at the finish line. I cried out in pain, my mouth filled with snow. Others rushed forward to check on me. Ethan Miller was the first one there. He picked me up in his arms and carried me to a nearby small cabin. "Are you okay?" His clear eyes showed a hint of concern. I rubbed my back where I was hit and shook my head. "I'm fine. Just a little pain in my back. It should be fine in a bit." To my surprise, he frowned. "No, I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup. Some internal injuries can't be felt right away." Then, regardless of my reaction, he took me directly to the hospital. After the x-rays showed I had no serious injuries, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at his tense expression, I sincerely thanked him. "Thank you, Mr. Miller. Taking care of you is my job," Ethan Miller said expressionlessly, nodding. "It's almost 6. I'll take you back to your accommodation." Then, under Ethan Miller's guidance, I returned to my place, ate a simple meal, and went to bed. That incident seemed to serve as a warning for Ethan Miller. In the following days, he became more cautious, constantly watching our every move, afraid of another accident. By the end of the tour, there were no more incidents in the group. As we were saying goodbye to the others, Ethan Miller suddenly called out to me. "If you want to book a tour again in the future, you can contact me directly. I can give you a discount." I hadn't expected Ethan Miller, who seemed aloof and hard to approach, would reach out like this privately. I nodded and gave him my contact information. After that, I was about to leave, but he stopped me again. "Are you free this weekend? I'd like to invite you to dinner." This invitation surprised me. I hadn't expected Ethan Miller to actively ask me out for dinner. I wanted to refuse, but then I saw Robert Sterling walking towards us from not far away and changed my mind. "Okay. Just text me the address later, and I'll meet you there." A hint of excitement flashed in Ethan Miller's eyes. He nodded and left. As soon as Ethan Miller left, Robert Sterling blocked my path. "Who was that man? Why did you agree to have dinner with him?" I thought Robert Sterling would leave after that day, but I didn't expect him to have been waiting here for my return. Seeing me talking to Ethan Miller, he instantly became possessive and rushed forward, demanding coldly. I frowned and said calmly, "It has nothing to do with you." "What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? We're not divorced yet. I won't allow you to be in contact with other men." Robert Sterling raised his voice at me for the first time. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared, as if he would devour me the next second. He startled me, and I instinctively took a step back. Realizing his outburst, Robert Sterling quickly controlled his emotions and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I got too emotional just now. But I truly can't accept you seeing other men." Saying this, he handed me a report, explaining sincerely, "This is a diagnosis from the highest authority. Your uterus was indeed cancerous. I wasn't lying to you back then, it was removed because of the cancer. As for Tiffany's child, I wanted her to have it only to make up for the regret that you couldn't conceive." I glanced at the report. It indeed had the seal of an authoritative institution, no one could fake that. However, this result surprised me. I hadn't expected my uterus actually was cancerous. Robert Sterling hadn't lied about that. "Sarah, you are the person I love most. I would never hurt you," Robert Sterling continued his heartfelt declaration. "As for Tiffany, that was just an accident. I've completely cut ties with her, and she won't intrude on our lives anymore. Please come back, okay? I really can't live without you." He said this and reached out to take my hand. I immediately shook him off and put distance between us. You should have heard the saying, "Once unfaithful, never trusted again." Since you betrayed me, I will never forgive you. Whether you sign the divorce agreement or not is up to you. Just stop bothering me." But Robert Sterling seemed unable to understand. He shook his head. "No, I don't want to be apart from you. We've been together for so many years. Can you really bear to throw away all those beautiful memories? You said you would only love me my whole life. Why are you leaving me?" Looking at Robert Sterling's hurt expression, my heart was unmoved. I called the police and had him arrested directly. Afterward, I sent Tiffany a message telling her to keep Robert Sterling in check. After that, Robert Sterling truly didn't appear again. During this time, Ethan Miller kept trying to meet me, indirectly. Although he was subtle, I could still sense his intentions. I was direct and told him I had just ended a relationship that lasted over 10 years and didn't want to enter another one. Ethan Miller wasn't discouraged. He said he could wait because he had already been waiting for 10 years. Only then did I learn that Ethan Miller and I had met before. It was when I had just started working and saved some money to take skiing lessons. Ethan Miller and I met then. At the time, Ethan Miller went to the ski resort to de-stress from his heavy family business but accidentally fell and injured his leg because he was going too fast. The spot where he fell was unsupervised, and no one noticed he was in trouble. I happened to see this scene and quickly called the staff, who then rescued him. I hadn't seen him since then. He said he had been looking for me, wanting to thank me in person, but it was as if I had vanished, and he couldn't find me anywhere. It wasn't until I married Robert Sterling that he saw me on a big screen but didn't dare disturb my life. After hearing his story, I was quite surprised. I hadn't expected us to have such a connection. Ethan Miller didn't distance himself after being rejected. Instead, he became my friend, often joining me for outdoor activities, reminding me of warmth, and becoming another important person in my life. The next time I heard about Robert Sterling was 2 years later. I heard that after he was arrested by the police that day, Tiffany personally came to bail him out. Afterward, the two had a big fight over the incident. In a fit of anger, Robert Sterling pushed Tiffany, and as a result, Tiffany miscarried. Losing both love and her child, Tiffany couldn't handle it and went insane. She hit Robert Sterling with her car, leaving him in a vegetative state. Tiffany was then sent to a psychiatric hospital, spending the rest of her life there. Hearing about their fate, I felt no ripple in my heart because, to me, these people were just transient guests in my life. They left marks, but they couldn't keep me.